You know, the funny thing about the spiritual path is that the moment you start chasing it, it runs faster than you do. It's like trying to grab a soap bubble. The harder you reach, the quicker it bursts. And you stand there with nothing but the faint smell of childhood in your hands, wondering where it went. When I say, when you stop searching, the path appears, I'm not offering a clever slogan. I'm describing a very old, very human kind of mistake. The mistake of thinking that awakening is something out there, some treasure buried under the next layer of effort, the next practice, the next insight. But it isn't. It never was. Let me start with a story. There was once a man wandering through a dark forest. He carried a lantern, but it was dim, and he kept tripping over the roots, cursing himself for not knowing the way. Every few steps, he would stop and squint into the darkness, hoping to catch a glimpse of something familiar, a clue, a sign, anything that would reassure him that he was getting closer. But the forest only groaned in response. Finally exhausted, he sat down on a fallen log and sighed, I don't know where to go. He closed his eyes for just a moment, not out of wisdom, but from sheer tiredness. And in that stillness he heard it, a sound he had been too noisy to notice before. A river, it had been beside him the entire time. And when he opened his eyes, the path revealed itself, illuminated not by the dim lantern he had been guarding so desperately, but by the moonlight he had never bothered to look up and see. The path was always there. He was just too busy looking for it to see it. Now, the forest may look different for each of us. For one person, it's the confusion of what am I doing with my life. For another, it's the fear of losing control. For another, the ache of loneliness, or the weight of wanting to be someone different, someone better. But the pattern is the same. We search because we believe something is missing. We search because we think life is hiding from us. And yet, life is never hidden. It's just that we sometimes insist on shining our little lanterns into the dark, instead of letting our eyes adjust to the vastness around us. The search itself becomes the very thing that blinds us, because searching implies distance. It implies separation. It implies that the truth is somewhere other than where you are. And let me tell you something, gently, lovingly, there is nowhere else to go. There is no spiritual supermarket where the self you want is hanging on aisle 7. There is no map because you are already standing on the treasure. The great cosmic joke is that the moment you stop trying to become, you begin to notice what you already are. But of course the ego doesn't like that. The ego is very fond of becoming. The ego enjoys the chase because as long as you're chasing, it remains the hero of your story, a heroic seeker, climbing mountains, reading books, collecting insights like shiny objects. But the deeper journey, the one I'm inviting you into, is quieter. It's not a hero's journey, it's a dissolving, and dissolving is frightening if you believe you are the thing that dissolves. So the ego keeps you busy, always searching, always reaching, always managing, always comparing, and it whispers, sometimes kindly, sometimes desperately, not yet, not enough. Keep going, you'll get there, but you won't. Not that way. You can't get to a place you never left. You see, when you're caught in the search, you're like someone standing in the middle of a river asking where the water is, and you're splashing around, kicking up mud, stirring the very thing that would become clear if you simply stopped. Just stop. Not violently, not through willpower. Just the gentle stopping that happens when you notice the futility of the struggle, when you look down at your hands and realize they're gripping nothing at all. It's in that relaxation, not the relaxation you force, but the relaxation that comes when you finally let yourself be tired, that the path begins to shimmer into view. Because the path is not a road. The path is an allowing, it's the softening of the forehead you didn't know you were clenching. It's the space between your in-breath and your out-breath. It's the way the present moment reveals itself when you stop trying to hold the world still. Think about it. Life is happening faster than your mind can grasp. Your thoughts are always one moment late. By the time you think about the present, it's already become the past. So the mind is always playing catch-up, always chasing what's already gone. And you, if you identify with that mind, are forever 2 steps behind your own life. But when you stop searching, you fall into the moment that was waiting patiently for you all along. The eternal moment. The one that doesn't move. The one that is... Let me offer another way of seeing it. Imagine you're standing by a lake. The surface is rippling with wind, and you can't see your reflection. You want to see who you are, truly. But no matter how hard you peer into the water, it distorts your face, stretches it, breaks it into fragments of light. You try to still the lake with your hands. You try to push the ripples away. You try to make the water behave, but the more effort you apply, the more the surface trembles. Finally, you give up. You sigh, and you sit back on the shore. And in that surrender, that effortless, unintended surrender, the lake begins to calm on its own. The ripples soften, and the reflection you were seeking all along emerges quietly, without fanfare. This is what it means to stop searching. It means stepping out of the way. It means letting the lake be a lake, letting the mind be a mind, letting the breath breathe itself, letting the world turn in its grand, mysterious rhythm without your constant commentary. You don't find the path by forcing it to appear. You find it by letting everything settle enough for you to see what has always been here. Now, I know this sounds paradoxical. Don't search, you say, but how do I stop searching without making that another search? This is the mind playing its clever little games. The answer isn't a technique. It's a shift from doing to being, from striving to noticing, from tightening to loosening. You don't stop searching by commanding yourself to stop. You stop searching when you finally see the search for what it is, a habit of the ego, an addiction to becoming, a refusal to trust the present moment. You stop searching when you realize the search is exhausting you more than enlightening you. And in that recognition, something softens, something opens, something yields. You begin to fall into yourself the way a leaf falls into a river, not with resistance, not with fear, but with a kind of graceful surrender to the flow that was carrying you the entire time. And that is when the path, the real path, begins. You see, the path that appears when you stop searching is not a path in front of you. It's a path within you. It doesn't lead somewhere. It leads inward into the quiet chamber where you finally notice what has been humming underneath your entire life. The presence that never comes and never goes. The presence that watches your triumphs and failures with the same soft gaze. The presence you have mistaken again and again for something outside yourself. When you stop searching, you begin to sense this presence not as an idea, not as a goal, but as the very fabric of your being. It's like discovering that the home you've been longing for is the room you're standing in, except you've been too busy rearranging the furniture to feel it. And that realization comes with a kind of sweet sadness, a tenderness, because you see how much energy you've poured into becoming something else, someone else, somewhere else. We are all, in our own ways, exiles from the present. We exile ourselves with ambition. We exile ourselves with comparison. We exile ourselves with fear, with guilt, with the constant whisper. Not yet, not enough, not this, but the present moment doesn't punish you for leaving. It simply waits like an old friend sitting on a porch swing, smiling as you walk up the driveway after years of being away. It doesn't say, "Where have you been?" It just pats the seat beside it and says, "Sit, rest. I've been here the whole time." To stop searching is to join that friend on the porch, to let the world be as it is and yourself as you are. Now, when I speak of not searching, I don't mean abandoning curiosity. Curiosity is the fragrance of the soul. What I'm talking about is the kind of searching that comes from restlessness, the searching that comes from the belief that your wholeness is conditional, that your value is earned, that your peace lies just beyond your reach. Most people don't search for truth, they search for relief. They search for a way to escape the discomfort of being who they think they are. But truth isn't found by running away from discomfort. Truth arises when you stop running long enough to turn toward what frightens you, what tightens your chest, what keeps you busy at 2 in the morning, and then you see something remarkable. The things you've been trying so hard to escape are not enemies. They are teachers. They are guides. They are pieces of yourself that have grown tired of being ignored. Fear is not trying to harm you. It is trying to show you where you are still holding on. Sadness is not a failure. It is an opening. Confusion is not a mistake. It is the dissolving of outdated certainty. The very emotions that make you search for escape are the ones that invite you into the path that appears only when you stop. It's like trying to listen to a whisper while running through a crowded street. You have to stop, you have to breathe, you have to lean in. Only then do you hear what was calling your name all along. Let me tell you something subtle, something the ego doesn't want you to hear. The universe isn't hiding anything from you. It's revealing itself constantly in the breath, in the eyes of strangers, in the trembling of a leaf caught between summer and fall. The problem is not that truth is hidden. The problem is that we are noisy. We fill the spaces where truth could enter with our plans, our opinions, our anxieties, our histories, our imagined futures. We become so saturated with our own storyline that there is no room for the moment to show itself. When you stop searching, you create space, and in that space, the path unfolds like a fern uncurling in early spring. Not quickly, not dramatically, but with a naturalness so perfect it takes your breath away. But you can only witness this unfolding when you stop insisting that life conform to your expectations. Because the path doesn't appear according to your timeline. It doesn't arrive with a trumpet fanfare. It doesn't ask for your consent. It emerges silently, the way dawn creeps into the corners of a dark room. You notice it not because you made it appear, but because you finally became still enough to see. This stillness is not laziness. It's not passivity. It's not the resignation of someone who has given up on life. It is the confidence of someone who trusts life deeply enough to stop wrestling with it. Think of it like floating on your back in water. As long as you thrash, you sink. But the moment you surrender, the moment you let the water hold you, you float effortlessly. And the water was always capable of holding you. It was your resistance that kept you struggling. Stopping the search is the spiritual equivalent of floating. It is allowing yourself to be carried. It is learning to trust the intelligence that breathes your lungs, that beats your heart, that arranges sunsets and thunderstorms without asking you how. Now, some people fear this trust. They say, if I stop searching, won't I become stagnant? Won't I lose my ambition? Won't life pass me by? But you only fear these things when you believe the ego is the engine of your existence. Let me tell you a secret. The ego doesn't drive your life, it narrates it. Life moves on its own. Life unfolds. Life happens whether the ego approves or not. When you stop searching, you stop living under the illusion that you are the orchestrator. You become the witness of the orchestration, you become the dancer rather than the choreographer. And strangely, beautifully, your life becomes more aligned, more fluid, more authentic when you're not constantly trying to steer it, because you stop acting from fear and start responding from presence. You stop chasing meaning and start embodying it. You stop trying to improve yourself and begin to deepen into yourself. That is the path I'm pointing to. Not a path of self-betterment, but a path of self-returning. A path that appears only when you stop sprinting past the doorway of your own being. And once you step onto that path, even tentatively, even clumsily, something in you begins to relax for the first time in years. You feel the weight at the back of your neck loosening. You feel the tension around your eyes softening. You feel the constant monologue in your mind growing quieter, like a child finally falling asleep in the backseat of a car. And in that quiet, you hear something gentle, a whisper, a kind of inner warmth. It says, "You are already home." So you begin to notice this new quality inside you, a softness, an inner spaciousness. And it feels almost unfamiliar at first, because most of us have lived so long with a kind of internal tightening that we forgot what openness feels like. We forgot what it means to simply be without negotiating our own existence. When you stop searching, you start listening, not with your ears, but with your whole being. You begin to hear the subtle music underneath experience, the silence between thoughts, the stillness behind movement, the awareness that holds both joy and sorrow with the same gentle hands. It's like discovering the background of a painting you've been staring at your entire life. You were so focused on the figures, the colors, the activity, the drama, that you missed the canvas. But without the canvas, nothing could appear at all. Stopping the search lets you feel the canvas of your own consciousness. It lets you sense the presence that has been quietly supporting every moment of your life, even the moments when you felt most lost. Now, this doesn't mean your life suddenly becomes perfect. It doesn't mean all your problems vanish like smoke. It doesn't mean you float 3 inches above the ground. Life continues to be life. Astonishing, unpredictable, sometimes tender, sometimes ferocious. The seasons still shift. People still come and go. You still feel sadness, frustration, longing. This human form continues to do what it has always done. But the relationship changes. You stop trying to control the river and start learning how to navigate its currents. When you're no longer searching for something outside yourself, your experience becomes more intimate. You start to touch life directly without the filter of your expectations. You taste the tea rather than thinking about the taste of the tea. You feel the breeze rather than mentally commenting on it. You look into someone's eyes without waiting for them to validate you. Presence sharpens your senses. Not through effort, but through surrender. Think of it this way. A mirror doesn't have to try to reflect. It just has to be clear. When you stop searching, you become like that mirror. Your clarity returns. Your natural state reveals itself. Now, let's talk about the ego again, not as an enemy, but as an enthusiastic, sometimes misguided friend. The ego loves a quest. It loves improvement. It loves the drama of becoming. It loves the idea that one day I will finally be whole. But wholeness doesn't wait for permission. It's already here. The ego's search is like a child digging holes on the beach, convinced that treasure must be buried somewhere under the sand. It digs faster and faster, harder and harder. But the treasure isn't in the hole. The treasure is the one who is digging. When you stop searching, you start seeing that the ego is simply doing what it knows, trying to protect you, trying to make sense of things, trying to construct a world it can control. And instead of fighting it, you learn to smile at it, to love it, to let it soften. When the ego relaxes, even just a little, the path becomes clearer, because the path was never blocked by life. It was blocked by your insistence on deciding where it should go. It's like staring so hard at a single tree that you forget you're standing in a forest. Let me share something. The universe doesn't rush. It doesn't force. It doesn't cling. It's in a constant dance, expanding, contracting, blooming, dissolving, all without anxiety, all without doubt. When you stop searching, you join that dance. You stop trying to lead. You let the music move you. And in that movement, something truly miraculous happens. Your actions become more aligned than anything you could plan. Your choices become more intuitive than anything you could analyze. Your relationships become more authentic than anything you could script. Why? Because you're no longer acting from fear. You're acting from presence. Fear always searches. Presence always sees. Fear says, what if I'm not enough? Presence says, look how full this moment is. Fear says, I must find the answer. Presence says, the answer is already speaking. Fear tightens the body. Presence breathes. And as this presence grows, as it unfurls within you like a long sleeping flower, you realize something astonishing. You were never lost. You were never off the path. You were simply walking with your eyes closed, dreaming of a destination that was already beneath your feet. Stopping the search opens your eyes. Now, here's another paradox. When you stop searching, your life doesn't become static. It becomes fluid, more fluid than it has ever been. Because searching is rigid. Searching has an agenda. Searching says, this is what I want, and anything else is a distraction. Presence is open. Presence is curious. Presence says, show me, and that openness allows life to guide you in ways you could never predict. Some people think surrender means giving up their goals. But surrender isn't about goals. It's about identity. It's about letting go of the one who believes they must control every step. It's trusting that there is a larger intelligence, not outside you, but within you, that knows exactly where to lead you. This intelligence doesn't shout. It whispers, and you can't hear a whisper while shouting your demands into the universe. Stopping the search is how you tune your ear to that whisper. You begin to feel when something is right, not because it fits your plan, but because it resonates in your chest like a tuning fork. You begin to sense when something is wrong, not because it scares you, but because it feels out of harmony with your being. This is the path that appears, not a map, not a doctrine, not a checklist, but a felt guidance, subtle, deep, trustworthy. A guidance that comes from the same place that turns seeds into trees, and embryos into humans, and dusk into night. And all of it begins when you stop insisting that the universe reveal itself on your terms. When you stop searching, you stop arguing with reality. You stop negotiating with life. You start participating in it. And let me tell you, life has been waiting for your participation for a long, long time. As you begin to participate in life, rather than chase it, you notice another transformation. One that is subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but eventually becomes undeniable. You begin to trust yourself, not the self built from achievements, labels, or the stories other people tell about you, but the deeper self, the awareness beneath the roles, the presence beneath the personality, the one that doesn't need defending because it cannot be harmed, the one that doesn't need praise because it is already whole, the one that doesn't search because it has nowhere to go. You start to realize that your life has always been infused with guidance, with synchronicity, with moments of unlikely grace, but you were too busy searching to notice. Think back on your life. There were moments, weren't there, when everything aligned effortlessly, when the right person appeared at the right time, when something inside whispered yes, and that yes changed everything. Those moments didn't come from striving. They came from a deeper intelligence. They came when, even for a breath, your searching paused and you slipped into the current of your own being. Stopping the search allows these moments to become more frequent, not because you earn them, but because you stop obstructing them. It's a little like standing in a river with your hands outstretched, frantically trying to catch the water. You cup your hands together, you clench your fingers tight, but the water keeps slipping through, and then someone says, "Stop trying to hold it, just feel it." So you open your hands, you relax your fingers, and suddenly the water is everywhere, flowing over your palms, around your wrists, cooling your skin. You didn't get more water. You stopped restricting the water that was already there. Life is like that. Truth is like that. The path is like that. It's not a prize, it's a presence, and it reveals itself the moment you stop clutching at it. Now, some people hear this and think stopping the search means abandoning desire altogether, living a life without motion, without vision, without passion. But that's not it at all. Desires continue, preferences continue, creativity continues. The difference is that your desires stop owning you. They stop defining you. They stop dragging you around like a dog pulling an overwhelmed owner down a busy street. When the search stops, desires arise like waves, natural, spontaneous, and you learn to ride them rather than drown in them. You begin to see that fulfillment doesn't come from getting what you want. Fulfillment comes from the clarity that allows you to see your wants without being trapped by them. There's a great tenderness in that, a sweetness. You start to notice, I want this, I prefer that, this feels aligned, that doesn't, but there's no panic in it, no desperation. Just the flow of life expressing itself through you. It's like watching clouds drift across the sky. Some are bright, some are dark, some move quickly, some linger. But the sky doesn't chase them. It doesn't cling to the pretty clouds or resist the stormy ones. It just holds them, and because it holds them, it remains untouched. You are the sky. Your thoughts, your desires, your fears, they are the clouds. Stopping the search is remembering this. When you identify with the clouds, your life becomes a drama of constant weather patterns. Always changing, always unstable, always compelling you to search for something more. But when you remember you are the sky, you allow everything to pass. And the path appears not because the clouds vanish, but because you stop confusing yourself with them. Now, let's talk about fear, because fear is often the loudest voice urging you to keep searching, to keep pushing, to keep controlling, to keep fixing. Fear says if you stop searching, something bad will happen. Fear says if you let go, you'll fall. Fear says if you stop managing your life, everything will collapse. But notice something. Fear always argues in hypotheticals. Fear speaks in future tense. Present speaks now. When you stop searching, you stop living in the hypothetical world built from fear's imagination. You start living in the real world, the world of breath, sensation, relationship, groundedness. The real world is never as frightening as the imagined one. Even the painful moments, grief, loss, uncertainty, are more bearable in presence than the mind's endless projections of what might be. When you stop searching, you start responding to life as it is, rather than to the fears your mind invents. And in that shift, something extraordinary happens. Fear loses its authority. It still speaks, but it no longer decides. You listen to fear the way you listen to a distant radio playing in another room. You can hear the sound, but it doesn't shape your choices. It becomes part of the background rather than the driver of your life. This freedom is not dramatic. It's not triumphant. It's quiet. It's steady. It grows slowly, like roots, and as it grows, you feel more grounded than ever before. You stop being blown around by every opinion, every expectation, every unpredictable wave of emotion. You stop searching for external validation. You stop searching for certainty. You stop searching for the version of yourself you think the world will approve of. You start living from the center instead of from the edges. And when you live from the center, something almost magical happens. You begin to notice beauty everywhere, not just in sunsets or music or laughter, though those become richer too, but in the ordinary, unremarkable moments that once seemed invisible. The pattern of light on a wall, the quiet gap between footsteps, the way the air feels right before it rains, the warmth of your own hands, the rise of your chest as you breathe. Stopping the search makes the world vivid again, because when you're searching, your mind is always looking past the present moment, reaching for something beyond it, dismissing it as insufficient. But when you stop searching, the present moment becomes luminous. You start to see what was hidden by your ambition to find something better, and that is the great revelation. There is nothing better than this, not because this moment is perfect, but because it is real. And in its reality, its raw, unedited presence, it holds everything you were seeking. When you stop searching, you realize that life has been offering itself to you completely and without reservation from the very beginning, and all it was waiting for was your willingness to receive it. There comes a moment on this path, a gentle, unannounced moment, when you notice that life no longer feels like something you are pursuing. It feels like something you are inhabiting. You are no longer leaning forward into the future, nor bracing backward against the past. You are seated, finally, in the seat of your own being. This is not an achievement, it is a return. And in this return, something miraculous unfolds. You begin to trust not only yourself, but the entire movement of life. You begin to sense a kind of benevolence woven into existence. Not the promise that things will always go your way, but the deeper truth that things unfold with an intelligence far beyond your preferences. You become less concerned with whether life is meeting your expectations and more fascinated by the way it reveals itself when you stop trying to shape it. It's like opening your hands after years of clenching and discovering they can hold more when they're relaxed than when they're tight. Stopping the search reveals the softness of the world. Even the difficult moments become softer, not because they change, but because you meet them with presence rather than resistance. When sadness arrives, you hold it gently. When loss arrives, you breathe with it. When confusion visits, you give it space. You realize everything moves through you the way weather moves through the sky, never staying, never threatening what you truly are. This recognition brings an unexpected kind of courage, the courage to be undefended, the courage to be open, the courage to meet life without needing to control it. You discover that vulnerability is not weakness, it is the doorway to intimacy. With yourself, with others, with existence itself. And intimacy is what the path was offering you all along. Not a grand revelation, not a mystical experience, but the simple, extraordinary closeness with the moment you're in. Life stops being something out there. It becomes something happening here, within you, around you, as you. When you stop searching, the walls you built begin to soften. The walls that kept you safe, the walls that kept you separate, the walls that kept you lonely, you start to realize they were never necessary. Life doesn't ask you to armor yourself. Life asks you to participate, and participation is only possible when you are willing to be touched by your experience, touched by beauty, touched by sorrow, touched by uncertainty, touched by love. Yes, love, because when the search stops, love appears not as an emotion, but as a way of seeing. Love is what arises when the barriers fall away. Love is the natural state of presence. It's the quiet recognition that everything is made of the same light, the same breath, the same awareness, playing in different forms. You look at a tree, and you no longer see an object. You see a living expression of the same mystery that animates you. You look at a stranger, and you no longer see other. You see another expression of the same consciousness wearing a different mask. Spiritual searching often blinds you to this, because when you search, you divide, you create a gap between yourself and what you're looking for. But when you stop searching, the gap closes. You realize you are not separate from anything. You are in relationship with everything. This shift is not something you force. It's something that happens to you when you stop trying so hard. You begin to live in a kind of gentle awe. Even the smallest things surprise you. The way sunlight lands on a table, the way steam curls from a cup of tea, the way a child laughs without hesitation. You start to feel gratitude without needing a reason. Not gratitude for something, but gratitude as something. A natural hum of appreciation for being alive at all. This is what life feels like when you're no longer searching for it. Now, there is one more layer, a deeper one, that emerges when the search dissolves. You start to sense that you are not the doer of your life. You are the space in which your life unfolds. This is difficult for the ego to understand, because the ego is built on the belief that I am the one choosing, directing, creating. But when you watch your thoughts closely, you begin to see they arise on their own. They pass on their own. You don't think them, they appear. Emotions arise on their own. Preferences arise on their own. Insights arise on their own. Even your breath, which feels so personal, breathes itself. You begin to notice that life is happening through you, not because of you. And instead of making you feel powerless, this realization frees you, because you see that you don't need to hold everything together. You don't need to manage every detail. You don't need to be the architect of the universe. You can relax into the unfolding. This relaxation changes the texture of your life. Your relationships soften. Your choices become effortless. Your body feels lighter. Your mind feels quieter. And your heart, perhaps for the first time, feels available. This availability is the essence of true spirituality. Not searching, not striving, not achieving, but being available to life, moment by moment. When you are available, life becomes your teacher, your guide, your companion. When you are available, you stop missing the miracles that are constantly happening in plain sight. When you are available, the path appears everywhere, in the sound of wind, in the warmth of human touch, in the ache of longing, in the stillness between words. Because the path is not a direction, it is a way of being that reveals itself the moment you stop running ahead of your own life. And so, slowly, gently, something in you bows, not in defeat, but in reverence. You bow to the mystery. You bow to the moment. You bow to the simple miracle of being, and life bows back. And now, here, in this quiet place, where the search has grown thin, where the grasping has loosened, something new begins to dawn, not as a concept, not as a belief, but as a direct experience. You realize that the path was never ahead of you. It was never something to be achieved or acquired. It was never a reward for your discipline or your purity or your persistence. The path is the one who is aware of the path. It's the awareness looking out through your eyes right now, the awareness that has been with you through every mistake, every triumph, every heartbreak, every moment of confusion, every surge of joy. It's the awareness that watched your searching with infinite patience, knowing that the search itself would eventually exhaust itself, melt into stillness, and make room for what was always here. You begin to sense that you are not walking the path. You are the path. You are the openness through which life flows. You are the witness through which life reveals itself. You are the canvas upon which existence paints its endless variations. When you stop searching, you stop identifying with the brushstrokes. You remember that you are the canvas. And once you see this, even for a fleeting moment, your relationship with life transforms. You stop taking things so personally. You stop resisting every imperfection. You stop trying to bend existence to your will. Life becomes less of a problem to solve and more of a mystery to savor. A mystery that unfolds in its own time, with its own rhythm, without asking you to manage it. You start meeting each moment with openness instead of expectation, with curiosity instead of judgment, with presence instead of projection. This doesn't make you passive. It makes you transparent, a clear window through which life can be experienced without distortion. You find yourself laughing more easily, crying more honestly, noticing the world with a tenderness you didn't know you had. You begin to feel the heartbeat of existence, slow, ancient, patient, pulsing through your own chest. And that heartbeat whispers, this is the path, this moment, this breath, this you, not the you perform, not the you decorate, not the you protect, but the you that remains when all the searching stops. Now I want to invite you into something deeper, not a thought, not a technique, but a shift in the way your awareness holds itself. Take a breath, not a controlled breath, not a deep breath, just the breath you're already breathing. Notice it. Notice how it arrives without you doing anything. Notice how it leaves without asking your permission. Notice how life breathes itself through you. And for just a moment, allow yourself to rest in that recognition. Rest in the place within you that doesn't need to figure anything out. Rest in the space beneath your thoughts, like lying in warm grass beneath a sky full of drifting clouds. Feel the simplicity of being. Feel the ease. When you surrender to this ease, when you really allow it, even for a few seconds, the search dissolves like salt in warm water, because the one who was searching, the tight one, the restless one, the striving one, was never the deepest part of you. It was a wave, but you are the ocean. A wave cannot calm itself, but the ocean can hold any wave without effort. Let yourself feel the oceanness of your being, the vastness, the stillness, the openness, everything you have ever searched for. Peace, clarity, love, belonging is found right here, not as an object, but as the nature of what you are. This is why the path appears when the search stops, because the search obscures the path. It's like stirring a clear pond with a stick. The more you stir, the murkier everything becomes. But when you lay the stick down, when you stop interfering, the water clears on its own. Awareness is like that. Life is like that. You are like that. All you ever needed to do was to stop stirring. And as this clarity deepens, a final realization emerges. There is no separate you walking towards some distant truth. There is only truth, expressing itself as you. There is only awareness discovering itself through the human experience. There is only presence, taking the shape of your laughter, your fear, your longing, your silence. There is only life, meeting itself in every form, in every circumstance, in every breath. When the search stops, you stop standing outside yourself. You stop standing outside your life. You stop standing outside the world. You step into the center of things, not by effort, but by surrender, by letting go of the idea that something is missing. Nothing is missing, not in you, not in this moment, not in the path that unfolds with every breath you take. Everything is complete, not because it is perfect, but because it is whole. Wholeness is what you return to. When the search dissolves, wholeness is what reveals itself, when you stop trying to become anything at all. And so we end where we began, with a paradox that becomes obvious only when you live it. When you stop searching, the path appears, and when the path appears, you realize it had always been here, quiet, patient, luminous, waiting for you to finally be still enough to see it. Let this be your meditation. Let this be your invitation. Let this be your homecoming. Rest now. Rest in the presence that is listening. Rest in the awareness that has never left. Rest in the path that appears as the very center of your being. You are home. You have always been home. Welcome back.